You're listening to the Beauty Beyond Bella podcast, powered by Formula Wellness.
I'm your host, Dr. Yvette Suarez, owner and medical director of Bella Excellence, a diamond-accredited anti-aging med spa in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. On this show, we explore the latest trends in health, beauty, and anti-aging medicine while celebrating the inspiring journeys and achievements of our guests.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I am with the amazing Mary. So excited. So excited. So she's a fitness coach. And, we talk about our 4 pillars, which are nutrition, aesthetics, wellness, and brain health. And she really encompasses all of that. So I really want you to take me back and tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. So I have always been considered a larger fitness coach, right? Because I struggled with weight like my whole life. I went on my first diet when I was 12 years old, but on my first diet by my mother, I remember taking apple pectin because at 12 years old, like that was the trend. You have to eat 1,200 calories a day. We were very strict, and it wasn't about balancing your proteins and your carbs or your sugar. It was about the amount of calories and apple pectin I had to take. So I was watching my sister, who was 2 years older than me and smaller than me, and was taking apple pectin and eating 1,200 calories a day. So created some very bad habits in order to try and lose weight at 12 years old. So then that led me into very bad habits that by the time I was 16 years old, I became bulimic. And from there, took off into many different directions of working out up to 14 times a week, being bulimic, eating 700 calories a day, and creating this lifestyle that wasn't sustainable, nor was it healthy in order to keep up with a stereotype norm of what looked healthy. And that was, at that time, being a size 7 was what my goal was at 5'8". And I was still bigger than all of the other girls. So at 16, I got recruited to start teaching group fitness. And no one knew what I was doing behind the scenes, but I was living a very unhealthy lifestyle. And then that's led me to the point where I am today, where, of course, I'm a recovering bulimic. I am a fitness coach. I work in the skincare industry as well. And really, my goal is to bring fitness to the masses and help people understand, which I had to do my entire life, that fitness doesn't have a size. And that health doesn't have a size. It doesn't mean that you can be a size 50 in your body mass index, right? Or like a percentage 50. You need to be healthy, but it doesn't have a size. You don't have to be thin to be healthy.
Well, Grace, we have a fun with obesity in this country. Obviously, we have the highest rate of obesity in children. But I think we need to take away the shame. I think children should not be shamed. I think that we need to help them how to diet. It's not just has 7 apples a day or, this is your calories, but maybe not going to fast food restaurants, right? Making better choices in the household. But that really comes from the family. You can't have your cute little sister running around eating McDonald's and they're always sitting here eating an apple and you're hungry, right? It needs to be kind of a family nurturing thing. And kids are really mean. And so thank you for sharing that, because I know that's really difficult. And there's so many people, whether they're anorexic or bulimic right now, going through that. What kind of advice would you give them?
I think the first thing is educate yourself. We need to know more, and we also need to educate our families. Even my 8-year-old daughter is struggling with her weight. Her twin brother is not, and she is. So we have to sit down and teach the two of them, and they have to eat the same things. Right? So exactly what you said. It's not allowing him to have the candy and the sweets and the soda. It's helping them both make healthy choices. And it's not one healthy choice. What we do a great job of, you just alluded to it, we do a great job in our society of choosing fads. So we choose like fat-free or low calorie or let's keto, and that's really not the story. It's about making healthy choices where we're finding a balance. And if you just go back to the food pyramid and you're making healthy choices based on the
Do you remember that from 3rd grade?
Like, it's the real way. And it's also looking at the back of the label and choosing the options that have the least amount of ingredients on the back of the label. And if you're starting there, then you're making better choices. And if you don't know, ask. So don't make the easier choice because it's the easier choice. We put so many processed and chemicals and processed foods on our shelves in the grocery store that we're doing a disservice to our health and to consumers that we don't know. We think that when we look at something and it says made with whole grains, that means it's healthy. It absolutely does not.
No. Or sugar-free is normally worse because they're putting all saccharides. So anyway, but it's bad.
Or the new trend gluten-free.
Right.
Like it's a trend. It's a fad. And it doesn't mean it's healthier. It oftentimes here means it's not healthy.
Right. And normally anything they say on the shelf that actually be, look, we're all sinful in that. I'm very busy and I try to run around and I eat out a lot. And I notice that if I eat out a lot, it's when I start to feel more bloated. Even if I think I'm picking your healthier choice, but you're not controlling. So anything that you can cook, anything on the vegetable tray, on the fruit tray, you can almost eat as much as you want on that and stay really well healthy. But getting something that's prepackaged that can last in your closet for 2 years, probably not great on your gut.
Yeah. Well, and listen, you can also, we live in a fast society. So I go out to eat. But I make, and I'll go to fast food, but I'm making healthier choices. So I'm going to choose the grilled chicken and I don't eat the bread. And does it sustain me? Yes. Does it make me happy that I'm not having the fries? Yeah. But I may take one of my daughter's fries or one of my son's fries. But you have to fit it into the life. I like to say live by like the 80-20 rule. And you'll hear like some of the best like celebrity professionals do this. The fitness professionals do this 80-20, and sometimes they'll say 90-10. I think that's a little too strict for our world, but 80-20, 80% needs to be healthy. Like you're living on the food pyramid, you're getting your vegetables, you're getting your fruits, you're getting your proteins, and then 20%, you do you. Like do the things that you want to do so that you feel sustained and you don't go off the deep end and eat a whole bag of Oreos.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was just talking about the 80-20 rule the other day, and I'm trying to make it in different facets. I agree with you. Monday through Friday, I'm pretty good at work. I fast or I have my protein shake. And on the weekend, if I want my pizza and my french fries, right, it's my cheat time. But I've also been doing that for my mental health. I am trying to say no 20% of the time. I've not succeeded on that yet, but I'm probably at about 10% because we overwhelm ourselves in saying yes all the time to everything as a people pleasers and trying to do all that. And I think that has to do all of that, right? Our nutrition, our health, our wellness, our mind, right? So I always talk about be healthy mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
That is a very difficult concept.
I think that goes into social media too. Like the 80-20, I really tried to get into tucking my cell phone away and not going to bed with it because how easy is it to like start scrolling, that mindless scrolling, getting off of social media at night to detox and also get off the blue waves. But above and beyond that, like to detox your brain and allow your body and your brain time to just chill and truly detox. But the mental, like what we don't do enough of above and beyond being healthy in the foods we're consuming, the help for ourselves, detoxing on the stress level. And that doesn't mean like a lot of people are leaking detox on stress level. What am I doing for mental health? That doesn't mean you have to meditate. To this day, I can't meditate, but meditating sometimes is going out and just taking in fresh air for 5 minutes. But it's what are we doing in our lives for that 80-20, like exactly what you said, to give back to ourselves. And that could be 5 minutes of fresh air a day where you're saying, I'm not just going out for 5 minutes and then being on my cell phone. I'm being mindful in that 5 minutes to just take in breath and air and just breathe and be and truly just be in myself for that moment, or taking the time to say no so that I can have that time for me. And it may not be an hour, it may be 5 minutes that day, but that 5 minutes will give you back more in the long run.
Yeah, it's funny. I think back during our COVID time, and even though that was an absolutely horrible time, I did have a lot of quiet time. I went for more walks. There was not as much pollution outside, not as many cars driving around, and as many people. And I started looking at all the trees and just walking around and going, man, this is so beautiful. We live in such a beautiful world and we're so blessed. And then we went right back to the grind and didn't know how to we almost went even more. I think we went full force trying to get back to our normal lives. And none of us really took that time to welcome that little peaceful time that we were separated from the world and each other, but to kind of focus on ourselves and really appreciate that time.
I think we did, but we took it for granted.
Yeah.
You know, like if we could have held on to that, and I think it's normal in our society that we forget, but if we could have held on to those moments where we were like, wow, there's peace in this, and how we felt, because collectively it was horrible.
Right. Everybody's like, yeah, so I think it was in there, right?
But there was peace in that, where we were able to say, look at what this is bringing to myself, to my family. There is this sense of we're together and we're in this moment together, where we certainly didn't have that prior, and we don't have that now. We're back in the rat race. We're running, we're going. There's something to do every moment of every hour. And it's in the simplest moments that we're able to find peace and just reset in order to go back to the next day. So I think, like, even especially with social media, there's a quote that I like to use, which is, I will not live a social media life, because that's the world we live in. So I have it written on my cell phone. I have it written on my laptop, because I think that's the world we live in. And I think it's social media is cool. It's fun, but it also is a detriment to us because it's fake. We all live in this world, and I'm victim of it too. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I have this incessant need to want to keep up with the Kardashians. So I have to be very methodical in who I follow, to not try to want to keep up with them and where they are for this fake life that they live, because it's not real, right?
And I love that you said that. Think about think about who our children follow, right? Who our friends follow. I actually surprisingly don't do a lot of social media. It's never really been my thing. I figured I let go of the TV because it slows my brain down so I can calm down. But I do worry about people fixating on thinking that, one, that's normal. And we are not like everyone. Remember that everyone puts their best foot forward. It's always the people that probably are, unfortunately, the most unhappiest in their lives that project the most happiness on social media.
Yeah.
So we can just kind of, I think, help each other out and understand that no one has a perfect life. Everyone struggles all the time. That if we kind of just own that, we're there to help each other and not try to be perfect, which we'll never get to.
And I think that's the thing that we need. And I think some people do that very well on social media. I think many people don't. And that's the thing that's the point that I'm making, is that my goal is I follow those are my tribe. Those are my people. Follow the people that are like that, because the people that aren't like that, in my brain, I'm trying to keep up with them, and that doesn't work for me.
Follow inspirational people. Yeah, someone that's going to help you, not put you down.
Yes, because and even they're not trying to put me down. They're just creating a life that's not real, in my opinion. And then I'm trying to keep up with it, which is then a rat race that I can't keep up with, which then puts me down because I'm stressed, right? I'm trying to get my kids, who I think we need this perfect picture at the playground. We're all happy. Then we'll go into the dinner table. We need to all be creating this perfect recap of the day where they're tired from being at school for 8 hours. Why do they want to be happy around the dinner table? We're not dad eating dinner, right? So, but I saw a picture from someone else who did it. Why can't I do it? So I think it's about how do we create the moments for ourselves and know where we are in that moment. Because there's moments when I scream and freak out with my 8-year-old twins, and then I have to go back and say, I'm sorry, and know that that's okay and that's real. And the tribe around me is just like I am, or close to it. And we're okay with accepting that that's who we are. And we're going to move forward and be better in the next moment. But that's real.
Well, listen, I agree. Look, I'm the feisty Spanish girl. Imagine my poor children. But my son has always told me, Mom, you're the strictest parent. You have the most rules. You do this, you do that. I'm not a screamer, at least. I don't have that habit. However, I am really, really strict. And I tell my children, it's because I love you. Yeah. If I didn't care, you can do whatever you want. But I have put all my effort into trying to help you lead a healthy life. Don't get attached to other things. To be healthy, right? There. Look at inspirational stuff. Look at things that are going to kind of blend your life into a better thing. And it's hard for us. I will tell you, though, now that I'm over 50, because you're still much younger than I am, it gets a little better, meaning that I now got to the point where I have pretty much taken away anybody out of my life that are negative. Like people that are constantly going to be negative in your life, you just need to kind of take them away. It's a different season of my life, and I want to be surrounded with really healthy, positive, amazing human beings.
I think that's part of the being able to balance and say no too, right? I was talking to my niece who's 22 years old, and she is struggling with someone in her life who she loves very dearly, but they're constantly asking her for something. And she's like, it's so hard for me to say no. And having that conversation with her of knowing you can still love that person and say no. And how do you do that? Right? Because we live in this world where someone's always going to have a victim in their life, right? But how do you say, I love you, but I can't help you with that, but I can always be here in love.
The Formula Wellness 4 cornerstones are nutrition, functional wellness, aesthetics, and brain health. These serve as a guide rail for individuals that are pursuing longevity inside and out. Formula Wellness is setting the new benchmark in preventative healthcare and aesthetics. Thank you for all of your support. To learn more, please visit www.formulawellness.com.
We are fixers.
Yeah.
I think most women, I always have this funny joke for those who don't know me. I'm a bad picker. I didn't pick really great men in my life. I picked men that I could fix. And I realized that I'm not bad. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to make myself the very best. And so I know that now by being in a healthy relationship, but when I wasn't, I didn't see that. I wanted to help them. It was like my job.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. I've been there too.
Why do we do that to ourselves? We can't fix the world. We're going to try, but we just can't fix it. I think we'll be healthier for ourselves when we stop trying to fix others. We just can't do that. When we fix ourselves.
I think you point out something so nice because have you ever followed Shanti?
No.
Okay. So he has this really great podcast as well, where Shanti was in an abusive relationship when he was younger. And he went to therapy to help him through that. So he still goes to therapy today. He's like, I'm fixed, I'm healed, but I go to therapy to keep me happy.
Help.
And I think it was so great when he said that. And I listened to the podcast on it because we create a stigma in our society that you go to a therapist because you're broken versus going to a therapist to stay well. And it really is about being well, right? So I've been to therapy for many different reasons in my life. I went to a therapist for the first time. I was 12 years old when my father died. And it was horrible because I went to someone who just didn't give me and wasn't great for me. And it wasn't a great experience. But then when I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, when I was a little bit older, I found a therapist that was great for me. And it really helped me. Now, at a much older age in my life, I go to a therapist to help keep me happy, to help keep me balanced. I mean, I keep me happy, but my therapist helps balance me because of my OCD. I can make a mountain out of a molehill. Like I can overanalyze it to the point that the train like we've gone over the train tracks 1,000 different ways, right? So I love that he said that because I think, we are all at different journeys in our life, but what is consistent is that we all are on this journey for an evolution, right? And the end goal, I believe, is that we are evolving to be a better version of ourselves so that we can make a difference and an impact on other people's lives, right? So if that is the belief and if that is the goal, then therapy should be a part of that to help us achieve that goal, right? In whatever form that is, it could look different ways. But for me, I have my therapist, her name is Alicia, love her dearly. I don't see her every week, but I'll see her now because it's about happiness, right? I see her for a couple times a year. I'll start going back to her for like a couple of months just to help keep me balanced and get me back in the right place. But there are times like when I'm having rough patches that I will get back to her and be like, oh, we got stuff to fix. And I'll go back to her as needed. But I loved getting back to Shanti. I love that he said that because we've got this stigma that there's something to fix. And sometimes there is stuff to fix, but it's not always about fixing. It's about keeping the evolution going so that we can be our better selves and keep giving back, which is like why we're here.
Well, they're there to empower you, right? I agree. I think there still is a stigma. I see it a little bit less. I remember when I talked to my son and the kids in college, and it's a thing for them to all have a therapist. If you don't have a therapist, you're not in the in group. When I thought was really odd, because growing up, if I had a therapist, it was a really bad thing and it was a secret. Now it's like a trendy thing that kids want to have therapy. So I think that was hard for me as a parent to see that. But I thought, we can't be everything to our children.
Yeah.
We really need to allow them to be adults and to act, especially since I have adults now, and to behave like that. But it's really hard as, you know, as an OCD and probably ADD control freak, to let go of the reins and allow people to really do that. But I love that. And I love the concept of doing that for wellness. I really do. You know, we have those friends that we need to bounce ideas off us and keep us on that right track.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what therapy would do for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. I do too. That was really good. Okay. I want to go back a little hard conversation as a fitness coach.
Yes.
You know, I believe in wellness. Obesity is a problem. I also believe that when we hit menopause, our hormones are changed, which makes it a little bit harder to lose weight and obviously put on the pounds. I gained 50 pounds in 1 year when they took away my hormones, which was really for me devastating, right? What is that stigma like as a fitness coach? I feel like they judge patients to go and maybe do some medications to help weight loss or get on some hormones. What is that like for you?
So I think in our industry, I think it's actually common that fitness coaches will judge people on their weight loss journey for maybe not trying hard enough. And
They exercise.
yeah, more exercise more, or they eat better, that they'll lose the weight. And there have been some celebrity fitness coaches that have come out and said that you don't need the GLP. And it's heartbreaking to me as being someone who is bigger and who has struggled with weight my entire life. I can tell you for a fact, I know that there are people who need more help. I know for a fact that my metabolism is all wacky from a lifetime of doing crazy things to my body. And I know there are people that need more help. It's been scientifically proven that there are people who need more help. So I think fitness coaches need to stay in their lane. And I think that we are at a beautiful time in our industry and in our world where we have options to support people. And I think there are viable, healthy options that when you are creating movement and eating the right things and then adding options in like a GLP, that it creates this beautiful package that is working in synergy to bring more health to your body. And again, I'll go back to what I said earlier, is that healthy and fit doesn't come in one shape or one size. And that none of us have any right to judge anyone on their journey, regardless of what we know. I think another important point to say is that there is no one who out there who is 100% on top of every single fact of every single body type. So it's about finding the right balance and the right program that works for each person. So you may have to go to a fitness coach to get your fitness. You may have to go to a Dr. Suarez to get your GLP and your hormones corrected. And you may have to go to a nutritionist to get your nutrition. But you can't go to just a fitness coach and think they're going to fix it all.
Yeah, look, you know, insulin resistance is a real thing. When people are insulin resistant and are trying to lose weight, they're struggling.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, I'm not a big proponent all the time of medication. I have found that the GLP-1 has done really quite amazing for my patients. And I use like a third of the dose. I don't believe in maxing out on these doses. Yeah. We're not trying to max out our insulin stores. We're teaching people to not have that hunger that makes them make those bad choices. But I also tell my patients who are doing weight loss, that doesn't mean you go eat McDonald's as you're on do this. This is your journey to kind of help control those cravings, those sugar cravings that kill us, right? Get us well balanced, start to help reduce our visceral fat, reduce our, you know, the problems of cardiovascular risk, and really help that. And now the studies are showing that patients are actually getting healthier. The cholesterol is going down, their heart disease is going down.
The heart disease is really interesting.
It's amazing because we're controlling that insulin resistance and showing people they can eat smaller amounts and be more healthy.
Yeah. Well, I also think it is a real thing. Food chatter is a real disease. And we're finding out more about that now, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't know that before, but it's just as real as alcoholism. And now there's an option for it. So it doesn't mean that it's, like you said, it doesn't mean that you can take the medicine and then eat whatever you want and not exercise. It means that you create a program that allows you to have a full, healthy lifestyle. And I think that's where, you know, we all just need to stay in the lane, that we should stay in. So as being a fitness coach, as being overweight in my life, as coming to you for hormone therapy, coming to you for my weight loss options at times in my life, we need to seek what works for us as individuals, and we need to seek those professionals that are going to help us.
When we talk about little misdiagnoses, I know you had some issues. I think as physicians, we don't always do the best at listening to our patients, particularly, when you go to your primary care and they're hustling, and you give them all these symptoms and they throw a medication at you and off you go.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little about that?
Boy. Yeah.
Over to a can where
This one gets me fired up. Let's talk about
and
it.
she's a red cat, so be careful.
And I'm Irish. So I knew something was wrong. I started to struggle with perimenopause about a year ago, and I knew something was wrong. I gained 15 pounds. You mentioned the 15-pound perimenopause weight gain. I gained 15 pounds in 3 months. I started to lose hair. All my hair on my head was like falling out in handfuls. My skin started to get increasingly dry, and in the skincare industry, so I knew something was changing quickly and dramatically. Irritable all the time, was sleeping maybe 1 to 1.5 hours a night. I had so much going on. Migraines. I'm diagnosed with migraines, but I had them under control with medication. I was having at least one a week that was debilitating, 2-day migraine minimum. All of this was happening, and I knew something was wrong. So I went to my OBGYN, and my OBGYN said to me, well, we don't need to get blood work. We're just going to put you on birth control. Okay, that's not right, because with my migraines and with a history of heart disease in my family, my father died at 42 of a massive heart attack. Probably shouldn't be on birth control at 45. So chose to go to my primary care doctor, who did a full blood panel. And when we got the blood work back, I was told nothing was wrong with me, but my iron was low. So something has to be wrong. This is not right. I remember going home crying because I'm like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. There's something wrong. So I came in to see you for a regular Botox, I think, treatment. I'm like, I'm going crazy. And I know you do hormone treatments. Talk to me. And I started, before that, I was researching more on perimenopause because I knew something wasn't right. You and I had a heart-to-heart. You scheduled time with me just to sit down with me and go through my blood work. And you went through every marker, and you're like, red flag right here, red flag right here. My testosterone was a 15 and should have been closer to a 200 based on my weight, my activity level, because I work out 6 days a week, and where I am in my life. That was the first red flag, but there were many other indicators. So I am now 9 months in with having hormone replacement with you. And there were many other issues. That was just the big one. And I will have to say, I am so incredibly grateful for your knowledge, for you being this will make me cry.
You said it'd be all emotional.
For you being an advocate for women, that you truly know what you're talking about, and you do it from your heart, and you do it like truly to help women. And like, there's so much more talk about perimenopause now, and that's a great thing. But you made such a difference in my life, and for so many other people, I'm sure too. And I know, it's such a big story that we've got so much more work to do for women and what's happening with perimenopause and how they're not being helped. But I can't thank you enough for the difference you made in me. I don't want to say that I'm back to the old me, because I believe that as you age, it's not about getting back to where you were when you were younger, but I'm me again. I feel good in who I am, and I'm so happy with how far we've come in the last 9 months. So thank you. Thank you for that.
If me here, I love to hear that. And you're right. Like we talk about all the time. I say always, it's easier for you to make people look pretty than feel well, because it's a lot of things and a lot of hurdles we have to go over to make people feel well. It's balancing their hormones and helping their mind and figuring out nutrition and really giving them a balance. But there's nothing more rewarding when they come in, not only because they're glowing, because their skin is amazing, but they're glowing because inside they've captured their life again. And we need to keep living like that. We need to be empowered that way. And I appreciate you telling our story. I will tell you a little tidbit about the labs. And I think it bothered me when we look at these labs as physicians. We're taught there's a range. And we're taught as long as you're in that range, whether it's at the bottom of the range or the top, you're normal and there's nothing we need to treat. Instead of talking about suboptimal health, how do we get to that optimal number, right? And so if we think of the range of being 20-year-olds to 80-year-olds, do we want to feel like we're 80 or do we want to feel back to like we're 20 or 30? So as a rule of thumb for people when they're looking at the labs, I tell them try to look at what 80% of that, with the highest part of the 80%, that number is where you should try to get to, right? So if you're 15 and you want to be 200, like we're way off, right? And so looking at all those numbers, then just saying, well, you fit in this curve, so you're fine. All those symptoms are not real. We really need to treat people's symptoms and make sure we're optimizing their health.
Yeah, it made a huge, huge difference for me. And along the way, we've done my blood work several times because we had to figure out, there's been other things along the way that I've spiked on to where we've had to redo my blood work. But what I appreciate is you're not putting me in a box. And it's what you've always been consistent with, even with my face. Like, you don't put me in a box. You know, I'm so picky with my lips, and there are things that my best friend comes from New York to get treatment. She always wants something that's like from a picture, and you're like, honey, no, we need to do it based on your face. So this is what I'm recommending. But you truly are so meticulous with your craft and with your expertise that it's clear that you are an expert, that you are not only passionate, but you're so knowledgeable because you research it to the degree. And I'm a fan because I keep coming back to you and I'll only let you touch my face. But in terms of the perimenopause, you've made the biggest difference for me in my life. And the fact that you keep coming back and saying, okay, let's look again. Let's make sure it's right. Let's check these other markers, like even my thyroid, because what people also don't realize is there's many other things happening. It's not just estrogen and testosterone. The thyroid's coming into play. You also talked to me, I think that was around the thyroid, about numbers I never even heard of and that my doctor wasn't even looking at. So we had to go back and have that looked at. You were ordering different labs that never even looked at in my life, saying, hey, these are indicators that we need to check based on your symptoms. So mind-blowing, and it just shows what we're lacking. A primary care doctor only knows what they know. An OBGYN only knows what they know. You have to go to the expert in order to treat what you're looking for. And we have a long way to go with perimenopause, but at least we're starting to talk about it, and we're starting to recognize it more. But I bow down to you. The way to do it.
You should be so good. It is totally my pleasure. I absolutely love it. I cannot let you go before you answer our final question.
Yeah.
What does beauty mean to you?
Beauty to me is someone that feels beautiful in who they are, that feels it. So it's more than just confidence, because I think confidence is different than actually feeling it. I think confidence is something that we can emote because we look good that day. But I think feeling beautiful in your own skin is different. I think it's a feeling of what you look like on the outside, but also in who you are on the inside. And then when we take that a step further, I think it's about taking that light and sharing it with the world. And I think that's who you are too. I think it's what you do every day. So even when I came to you last week, like you gave that to me last week. So
you can give you a little warm hug. That's all.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming in there.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Powered by Formula Wellness.